Hello, welcome to the Winning Balance podcast. Today we are joined with Nick Howland. I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here.
I'm excited to jump into your story and who you are as a person. I've heard wonderful, wonderful things about you.
Thank you.
I've had the opportunity to hear a little bit of your story through Watt, Jimmy Rex's program.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to dive further into that, but I'll jump into your bio real quick, and then we'll actually get to know you in the episode.
Let's go.
Let's get it. Dr. Nicholas Howland is a board-certified plastic and reconstructive surgeon, speaker, and host of the Naked Patient podcast. He also is a cast member on the television series Writer's Island and is preparing to publish his debut book, The Atheist Prayer. His work centers on transformation, both physical and emotional, helping people see their own worth, embrace self-love, and live more fully. Thanks for jumping on, dude.
Boom. That's all me. Holy crap.
I love it. In 2 sentences, that's everything we need to know about Nick, right?
Nailed it.
I love it. Well, dude, Nick, I kind of like I said before we started recording, how I love seeing this play out is going in chronological order of your story.
Okay.
But even before that, I want to hit on a couple parts of your bio that I'm sure the listeners are curious on, and especially your book and the TV show. Yeah. Talk to me about those two things. Are those, I assume the TV show has something to do with being an author and writing. Is that where the book came from?
Yeah. So I've been, over the last 3 years, I've been trying to put a book together. And it really was, I wanted to write something that was a memoir of my own life. And I just never found the time. I even brought in a buddy to help ghostwrite this thing, and we got to a point where he's like, dude, I've taken this only so far. You're the weak link at this point. You got to sit down and hammer out some of these sections. And I never found the time. And a friend of mine published a book, and I liked the way it was marketed. I liked the way she had done it. And I said, hey, let me talk to your publisher. And so I talked to her publisher, and she said, oh, yeah, my method is a little unique. She says, I bring my authors somewhere completely private, usually like Costa Rica or a private island, and they spend a week on the island with me. And most of my authors write their entire book in a week. And I was like, oh, that is exactly what I need for this, for my problem, right? Like my block. Yeah. It's just time, it's just me, nothing else, no surgeries, no family, no nothing. And she said, great, we leave in 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh God, I can't do that. And she said, well, that's the only retreat I'm doing this year. And I said, well, maybe it just isn't in the cards then. This was back in January of this year. And she said, well, I do have something out of the box. I said, oh, what's that? She says, well, we're doing a retreat in the British Virgin Islands. It's a week, but because my method has become so popular, they have launched a television show around it. And so it's called Writer's Island. I've got 14 authors coming right now. They're all women. I could really use a male author to come on this island with me. And she says, and that's in June. I said, oh, that sounds really interesting. I think I would be completely down to do that. And so I did.
So you became a reality TV star and an author in 1 week.
Apparently. It's very, it is TV, but it's also very unique. It's not scripted. This is just people going through her process on the island.
That's great.
And so for me, it was a chance to go spend an entire week going back to my own stories and my own events in my own life. And to be able to write all of that down, knowing that I'm where I'm at now, is like a very cathartic experience. You go relive a lot of emotion because there were a lot of ups and downs for me. And so you went and relived all of that, and it was brutal. But you got to do it from the standpoint of knowing, like, I'm going to come out great on the other side. I know where I'm at. And so, yes, I'm going to go relive some of this stuff, but I'm going to do it from a healing perspective.
Good for you.
And so the book is called The Atheist's Prayer. We're in the editing phase right now. It's done. It's written. Right now we're just working with an editor on formatting, syntax, all of that. And should come out in January 26.
I love it.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that book, The Atheist Prayer. I'm sure like in Utah, you're going to get flack for people who don't even know what's inside either, right? And no matter what's inside, but talk to me about where the title came from, what's inside, the inspiration behind the book.
So the title is intended to be an attention grabber.
I love it.
And my own experience growing up here. So I was born here in Utah. I was born in Murray. Went to Murray High School. Born into an LDS family. Served a 2-year mission. I am also in a little bit of a special club. My special club is I have been excommunicated from the Mormon Church twice.
Interesting.
So went through an excommunication post-mission, clawed my way back in, did all the things I needed to do to get rebaptized back into the church. And then as I went through a divorce, I went through a second excommunication. And at that point, I kind of gave up on God, religion, everything. I went very atheist, very dark for a long, long time, probably about 7 years. And until I wrote this book, I didn't really fully appreciate what 2 excommunications had done to my own self-worth.
I'm sure.
And so the book is really about, it is not an expose of the Mormon Church. I think that is one thing that sets it apart from the culture that we live in a little bit, right? I think a lot of voices that are in that space are either still stuck in an I'm angry with the Mormon Church
For sure.
phase, or stuck in a I'm going to defend the Mormon Church at all costs phase. For me, these are the things that happened to me while I was in this religion. And this is the effect that they had on me. And at the end of the day, I'm at a point in my life now where I'm extremely grateful for those things. I'm extremely grateful for the 2 excommunications. They were the right decision. I'm extremely grateful for the Mormon Church and the role it played in my life. I don't consider myself an atheist. I would more consider myself agnostic at this point. I believe in a higher power. And I have found spirituality and belief in that higher power again. It just all came from within for me.
And that's all recently that you've been...
Within the last 3 years.
Good for you.
And I believe that is available to everyone. I don't think that prayer belongs to any particular creed or religion.
I agree.
I don't believe that Jesus belongs to any particular religion or creed.
I agree.
And so for me, all of that stuff was found internally. And I think everybody can find that. And so the Atheist Prayer is intended to be a book for anybody who's either felt left out in religion or who has felt ostracized from their community or from God or from themselves at any point. And hopefully it helps people connect with themselves again and find self-love the way that I was able to.
That's good for you. Talk to me through the emotion that it felt like to put this into a story and on paper, because this is something that you've obviously been trying to do for a long time, right? Talk to me through that process of here is a final copy of my story, of my emotions behind all of this.
Ooh. Right now, there's a very strong mix of fear and excitement around this thing coming out because I know that people will read my words, and no matter how clear I've made myself, no matter what point I'm trying to get across, people will interpret it the way they want to. And that's a scary, vulnerable place to be, where you're just like, hey, this is me. Because at the end of the day, I had a buddy who said, it was actually Jimmy. Jimmy was like, what do you want from this? I was like, oh, I just want to tell the story. He's like, okay, great. But what beyond that? Like, what would be the number one outcome from this? You've told your story. What would be the number one outcome? And I sat with that for a second. I said, honestly, the best outcome from this would be that those closest to me just understand me more. Like I want my family who is still, like most of my family is still very much members of the LDS faith. And I want them to better understand me and where I'm at. And they may not, they may read this and it's like, man, still don't get it. And that's a vulnerable, difficult place to be. Writing the story was one of the most healing journeys of my own personal life. It was funny when I mentioned I had brought a buddy on to help ghostwrite. And when we had worked together to ghostwrite this thing, we were very much writing this book as almost a self-help manual. And we were using my own experiences to teach certain themes or certain topics on self-love, religion, those kinds of things. And as I went to the island, I looked back at this manuscript that we had written, and it felt very preachy, right? I use the term, when I went to the island, I had to come down from that mountain. And sometimes you have to come down from the mountain and be with the people. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so I had to come down from the mountain and like sit with those emotions again and tell my story from that perspective, not a perspective of like, oh, let me teach you this. But I had to tell the story from the perspective of like, hey, this is where I was at. And these were my real raw emotions, and take it however you want to.
Even though that felt scary.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah. Well, I want to applaud you because I feel like I'm originally from Seattle and I moved here 3 years ago. My wife's from here. The biggest difference to me coming to Utah is realizing how much people care about what their neighbors are doing.
Sure.
It is like wild.
Are you LDS?
I grew up LDS. I'm still very involved in the LDS. There's always faith crises, of course. So
sure.
Trying to figure out where I stand. But that's the biggest thing moving to Utah, right? It's like, I don't know where I belong. Everyone is probably assuming things, right? It's this weird dynamic. And I applaud you for just being you and the genuine version of yourself, because I feel like that's needed more in Utah now than ever.
It's a hard place to be. It's a very peaceful place to be when you get there. The journey is not peaceful.
Of course.
But when you're there, it's a very, very good place to be. I talk about this a little bit in the book where I think, there's nothing wrong with Utah for Utah's sake. There's nothing wrong with Mormon culture for Mormon culture's sake. I don't think. What I do think has happened here is when you have such a high level of concentration of one particular religion or one particular faith, and this is true in Southern Baptist culture. This is true if you go somewhere where there's a high group of just Catholicism.
Of course.
You have it creates a very strong keeping up with the Joneses effect, right? And then you couple that with the way that the Mormon church runs its geography. If you remember the Mormon church, you don't get to pick what ward you want to go to, right? Other religions are like, oh, I like this pastor. I'm going to go to this church across town. When you're here, this is what ward you go to. And when it's so highly concentrated, that's 4 blocks. Like that's every one of your neighbors. And so your neighborhood suddenly becomes this hyper concentrated place of, oh, I see these people around and about. I see them on Sunday for 3 hours now too. I see them at Young Men's. I see them at Young Women's. And you all have the same ideals and the same beliefs. And all of a sudden that really can create a very strong keeping up with the Joneses mentality.
Yeah. Interesting.
Like I remember, and that didn't exist for me when I was LDS in Texas, right? Because in Texas, the geography is just much more spread out. Like we were going to church with people on Sunday who lived 20 minutes away, not 2 doors down.
That's how I grew up. Yeah, in Seattle.
And that means that makes the culture completely different. So when I first got married to my ex-wife Hillary, we lived in the basement of my sister and her husband. And I remember one Sunday, my sister and her husband get a brand new car. It was a Nissan Armada. Do you remember the Armada? Mm-mm. So the Nissan Armada was this like big Nissan SUV. That was like a family
boxy
car.
looking,
boxy looking, but it was gonna like compete with the Suburban, right? So it was like a little cooler version of a Suburban, and so the Mormon families could have a big car and not be in this like obvious Suburban. And so they came to church and everybody loved it. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's such a cool car. I love it. And they had like this stock base model of the Nissan Armada. 2 weeks later, another family rolls in with a brand new Armada, but this one's a little nicer. It's got some tin on the windows. It's got some rims on it. And it just a little bit better, right? And then 2 more weeks go by. I'm not kidding you. Family comes in and it's like, this is the Armada to trump all Armadas. It's got a lift package on it. It's got TVs in the headrests, like aftermarket leather seats. And everybody's like, oh, they won. They win the Armada game. 2 more weeks go by. Like, this is a true story. And one of the wealthier families in the ward, they come in with a brand new car. Not an Armada, though. Nissan has a sister company. Do you know what Nissan's sister company is? Nissan's sister company is Infiniti. Okay, so kind of like Toyota and Lexus. Mm-hmm. So it's the same car, just the luxury model. So they come in with an Infiniti QX90 or whatever it was that was the Armada version. So like, okay, no, we win the game. And that shit plays out in every ward across Utah all the time. As a plastic surgeon, Sally gets her breasts done. Guess what? Becky, Joe, and Molly, whoever, they want them done as well because there's this strong keeping up with the Joneses mentality that's existed.
Isn't Utah like number 2 in the U.S. for plastic surgery?
Plastic surgeons per capita, it's at one point it was number 2. It fluctuates now somewhere between 2 and 6, depending on the data and depending on the year.
You're in the right business then.
It's a great place for plastic surgery.
I love it. Well, Nick, it's been great getting to know you more, and I want to dive more into the story. Obviously, the podcast is about the family side. And honestly, I feel like usually in these podcasts, how I do it is like your business story and but I mean, you're a plastic surgeon, you make great money doing that. Like, to be honest, like what intrigues me a lot more is your story of family and that journey. Before we started recording, you were very open of like, I have failed at this, and you've learned a tremendous amount in that process, and hopefully you're better today. The lessons in that example, I feel like the listeners could gain so much from, no matter like where you're at in the walk of life. I'm hoping that people can understand that they can take these lessons and improve their life tremendously on it, no matter what walk of life, religion, et cetera, they're from. Yeah. So I think there's a lot to learn there.
Let's talk about it. I would say too, business is part of this. Like, yes, I'm a plastic surgeon. I also consider myself a small business owner. I own several companies. I employ over 100 different employees.
Good for you.
Between our medical spa, our surgery center, my own practice, and then side businesses that we have as well. And so entrepreneurship and business ownership was absolutely a part of this. I always knew I wanted to do this. In fact, my gig, we didn't talk about this, all through undergrad, I worked commercial real estate.
Really?
Yes. Jimmy Rex and I got our real estate licenses together.
Really? I love it.
Back after we got home from our missions. My dad is a very successful commercial real estate developer, and I am the oldest of 4 boys. I have 2 sisters, one older, one younger, so they're like the bookends of the family. But I was the man of the house. I was the oldest son, and I was always supposed to take over the family business. And so all through undergrad, I did commercial real estate, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. Knew I wanted to go into medicine, and was taking these pre-med classes for it. And when I told my dad that that's what I wanted to do, he said, "You're an idiot, and I'm not paying for that shit. There's much better ways to make money," which turns out he's right. So there are much better ways to make money than going to medical school and giving up all of your 20s, most of your 30s, and doing what I do. But it was what I wanted to do.
Exactly.
And it was, I've never looked back on it. The best piece of advice he gave me was, doctors are idiots when it comes to business. So you will at least get a degree in business. And so I did all of my pre-med courses and a business administration degree on top of it from the University of Utah. And that has served me very well as I've run my own practice and bought into different businesses and partnerships. But that journey, so the journey to go from medical school to plastic surgeon is about 14 years. That's the short route.
That's insane. Good for you.
So you do 4 years of undergraduate, typically. This is what I did. I had 4 years of undergraduate at University of Utah, 4 years of medical school at University of Texas, and then 6 years of residency training in plastic surgery also at University of Texas. I lived in Houston for 10 years. And then you're in. I started my medical school first year with a brand new baby. I'd been married a few years, and we had just had a brand new baby girl. And then 4 years later, I started my intern year in a surgical residency training with my son, also brand new baby. So both really smart choices.
Sounds like a freaking journey.
And I will tell you this. I had so to backtrack a little bit, right before I was married, I'd come home from my mission. We've talked about Jimmy, so we'll keep talking about Jimmy. Jimmy and I made a bet. We lived together in college for a little bit down here in Orem, and we made a bet of who would get married first. So maybe the worst bet I've ever made. I'm on my second marriage. He has not been married once. But I got married within a year of making that bet. And around the time before Hillary and I got married, I went through an excommunication with the Mormon Church. And then we got married outside the temple, and I spent the next 2 years doing all the things I needed to get back into the LDS Church and get rebaptized. And then we had our daughter Isabel, and we were sealed together as a family in the temple, and we went off to medical school. And all through medical school, 4 years of medical school, I was very much hardcore LDS. I was a gospel doctrine teacher. We had callings. We loved our ward. We loved the people that were there. And in medical school, people knew we were the Mormon family. Like, we were the token only Mormon family in all of my medical school class. And so we didn't go to the bars. We didn't hang out, with the people that were going to the bars. And when you go into a surgical residency, life just gets infinitely more difficult. You're there anywhere from 80 to 100 hours a week, sometimes more. And it wasn't the timing or the hours that were hard, especially on my family. My ex-wife knew that I was going to be gone all the time. I think the hardest thing for both of us was the inconsistency of what residency training was. So, for example, I would work all day on a Wednesday, right? 5, 6 o'clock rolls around and call my wife and be like, hey, I'm on my way home. It's been a crazy day. She's like, oh, thank goodness. The kids have been crazy. Can't wait for you to get home. And then somebody walks into the ER because they cut their hand off and I'm stuck for 8 hours. Like, you don't have a choice. And there was a saying in residency that both of us hated. And the saying was, it's not that when you're talking about your family, it's not that you don't come first. It's that medicine sometimes has to come first. And both of us at times hated that saying.
Oh, I'm sure.
We understood it, but you hated it at the same time. About 3 years in, and there's a lot more that we can go fill in the gaps in on this. But about 3 years into residency, we went through a divorce. She moved here to Utah with the 2 kids. And I spent the last 2 years of residency in Texas while she was here with the kids in Utah. And once a month, I would fly out on a Friday night. I would see my kids on Saturday, and then I would fly back to Texas on Sunday. And around the time of the divorce, I went through a second excommunication. And my kids would always do this thing where they would count down like how many more times Dad had to come out to Utah. And, you know, it became this game. Like every time I was out here, like, how many more trips, Dad? And we would count them down. And at the end of my residency graduation, like one of the proudest moments that I had as a dad was being able to stand up at residency graduation. My kids were in the audience, and I got to tell my story, and then I got to look at my kids, and I got to say, no more trips. Like, Dad's coming home. And in 2017, I came out here, and I started my practice here. And, you know, you fast forward to today, and I had a buddy ask me this maybe 6 months ago. Like, this was recent. And he and I were talking about finances and what he wants to do. And he's like, you know, there's this thing I want to chase, and it's this dream I want to pursue, but I know it's going to put my family in a really tight bind financially. I'll be gone a lot. It's going to be a hard strain on my family. He's like, but this is my dream. So do I do it? And I said, well, you got to decide if that's worth the cost. And he says, well, look at you though, man. Like, look, like all the things you have. Like, you have this beautiful life. You have a new wife that you love. You've got 2 kids that adore you. Very successful practice. Like, you chased your dreams. It was worth it, right? And I looked at him. I said, I have no fucking idea, man. No clue. Like, do you think, am I happy now? Absolutely. Beyond measure. And I'm so grateful for everything that I've went through. But you don't think there have been times that I have sat and wished that I had my 2 kids in my house around the clock? That I didn't have to put my ex-wife through what I put her through, and that we didn't have to go through the divorce. Like, I have no idea if this was worth it. Ask me in 20 years. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't love and appreciate and be grateful for what I have, right? I'm not sitting in this rueful place thinking I made a massive mistake. But there is a cost associated with our dreams, always. And I think you have to be very honest with yourself on whether that's worth it. I'm very much impressed with the people who are able to go through what I went through and keep their family intact. Like, there are residency programs in this country that boast about having 100% divorce rate. Like, that's like a notch on their belt.
It's insane.
That they're that intense with their training that no marriage can survive it.
It's insane.
And so, yeah, to your listeners and like to this, I would say the most important thing you can do in chasing that dream is, number one, recognize the cost. And number 2, don't ever put the things that are most important in front of that dream. And for me, that was wife and kids. And I think there was a time when they got put behind and I forgot. And I made choices that put them in a back seat. And those are the things that you wish you could fix and take back and change.
Of course. Thank you for sharing that, Nick. Mm-hmm. I want to break that down even more in that first marriage that you went through in the trenches of becoming a doctor. Like, what did you learn that you can apply to your marriage and being a dad and being a husband in this second go around where you are much happier, right? And maybe it's circumstance of life's much different, but
communication, which sounds like the most basic BS answer, but it is absolutely everything. I had a chance last year to sit in a car with my ex-wife and have a conversation about this. And we got to have a conversation around our marriage and why it fell apart, why I made some of the decisions I made and why she made some of the decisions that she made. And what it boiled down to is we didn't know how to talk to each other. We didn't know how to talk to each other about sex. We didn't know how to talk to each other about what we were struggling with. And because we didn't know how to talk to each other about it, like we just, at some point, we stopped being each other's person. And so in my relationship now with Haley, like that is the most important thing that we have, is the ability to communicate about everything. And
I mean, for myself and for the listeners, like action items behind that. If someone feels like, because I'm like a firm believer in that communicating and how like important that is in a marriage. But if you've been raised a certain way your whole life and vulnerability isn't a thing and talking about your emotions isn't, it's so foreign. It feels like you're trying to speak Spanish and you've grown up in Utah your whole life. Like what can people do?
You have to create it, right? This is not a thing that just happens in a vacuum and just, oh my God, it's the right person, I can talk to her. No, you have to work your ass off. And so when Haley and I started dating, Cody Sanchez, this is where I got this from. She had just talked about TEAM. Have you heard of the TEAM acronym that Cody Sanchez pushed for a while? TEAM is an acronym that stands for touch, education, appreciation, and metric. And so if you want to have a conversation with your partner that is a little more vulnerable, you're going to set aside time and you're going to be in a position where you're touching, right? You can be arms, holding hands, touching her thighs, whatever you want, man. But you're locked in with this person. And then education, you each tell the other person something you learned that day. Can't be just some stupid thing, like put some effort into it. What's something you really learned that day? And take turns. And then you each tell something that you appreciate about that other person. Can't be the same thing, and you can't, do the same thing every time you do this. But something you really appreciate about that person. And then you get to the M, which is the metric. And your metric is how you're feeling about the relationship, or where you're at in the relationship, or anything that you want to bring up in the relationship. And the reason it works is you've now touched, you've educated, you've appreciated, you've now set the tone to be able to have a conversation that's not going to be reactive, but it's going to be received much more, right? Like if you team with somebody so that you can then be like, hey, you don't clean up the dishes and I really need you to clean up the damn dishes. That's going to come across much better if you're in that safe container that you've set, rather than just this reactive. You come home from work, you're pissed off, and you're like, God, why don't you do the dishes? You have to do and then you're just arguing, you're reactive. And it's a silly example, but that was something that Haley and I used So when I first heard about it, I brought it to her. We had just started dating. And I said, hey, we should try this team thing. What do you think? And she's like, oh, yeah, I love it. Let's do it. So we did this little team thing. And we had this beautiful conversation. And a few days go by, and we were on a beach in Cabo. And she looks at me, she goes, hey, we haven't done that team thing in a few days. And I go, oh, yeah, like, well, whatever. There's just kind of a thing I wanted to try. We'll see. And she stops dead in her tracks. And she goes, that is not a thing we do in this relationship. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, we don't bring something into this relationship just to then say, oh, whatever, no big deal. Are we doing this or are we not doing this? And I'm like, oh shit. And
good for her.
Had a team thing. And that has been our relationship. We established so team is one, right? Team, communication, being able to have vulnerable conversations. You got to create it. Number two, as far as how to create this open communication and vulnerable place with your spouse, you have to have a sacred night of just you two. Like, do a date night. And I can't tell you the number of people that push back on me with this, whether they've been married 20 years or 1 year, or I'm too busy. Like, we can maybe do a date night once a month. Like, come on. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Carve out 3 hours of time for just you and your wife every single week. And when we first started, it was funny because I load my social calendar, right? I love hanging out with my friends. I love hanging out with other couples that we love. I love meeting new people. And I'm like the social butterfly in our relationship. Haley very much is like, I want to be home with my book and my dogs. And when we first started this date night thing, we went on a few of them, and each time I was like, oh, this is great. Like, we've now got this night set aside to go on dates. We'll bring the McCormacks in to come with us on this night. We'll have the McHenrys come hang out with us on this night. And we did that a couple times, and Haley pulled me aside, and it was probably during a team conversation. And she goes, this is not date night. I go, what do you mean? Of course it is. We're hanging out. She's like, no. Date night is me and you. That is it. It's no kids. It's no other couples. It is me and you. And that has become a sacred night for us. And it's just a muscle you build, right? Buddy of mine was like, hey, come on over tonight. It's a Wednesday. And I'm like, no, it's date night.
That's powerful.
I don't go out on date nights. And some of the pushback I will get from other couples sometimes is, well, it's financial, right? Well, I don't want to go out to this nice dinner every single week. We just can't do that financially. I'm like, most of our date nights, we are home. Most of our date nights, we're folding laundry. We're sitting with the dogs. That's the point, is it's just you two having that time together. No phones, put them away. Like,
that's great.
Create the space.
I love that she's that much of a believer in it, that she's getting you to see the mission too. Like, I think that's great. She is phenomenal. And we have to keep working at it. I love it.
Right.
Nick, going back to kind of the lessons you learned, it feels like that's your marriage, and it's amazing, amazing lessons. Talk about being a father and the depths of, like, you're a super successful business owner right now in several different facets, 100 employees, busy, like, you could be as busy as you want to be, right? And going through residency, medical school, etc. Like, you've been in high demand for a long time with your time. How have you learned from that to be a better dad? Because it's so easy to get lost when you're busy. Like, I feel like I could work forever. I feel like I could throw 12 hours in a screen and convince myself that's the most productive thing I could do.
Yeah.
But obviously with a baby, I've had to relearn this, and I'd love advice from you on that side too.
I'm going to come to the kid thing. I do have one third thing for,
I love
for
it.
the communication
I love it.
with the spouse. No screens in bed. Put them away. Take your TV out of your bedroom. No phones when you're sitting next to your wife in bed. So the only time we'll bring a phone out is that like Haley reads her book on her phone. So if I'm reading a book, she'll be next to me reading her book on her phone. But other than that, we do not have screens in bed. Nobody answers text messages. Nobody scrolls social media. And listen, we have to remind each other of this sometimes, but we don't have a TV in our bedroom. Anyway, that I think has served us well. On the kid thing, I don't want this to come across as I'm in a place where I have figured it out. Mm-hmm. I am constantly learning how to be a better father. And I have had times where I have questioned and doubted how good a job I've done as a dad. And I do think, though, that also is a hallmark of a good dad, is you constantly feel like you're not enough and you constantly want to be better. I think most people that I perceive as good dads, I think they all have that same feeling like, God, I want to be better. One lesson that I learned from my ex-wife, and this was a lesson that I still think about and bring into my life today. When I started residency training, it's funny when you're trained to become a surgeon, like they teach you to own and command an operating room, right? You have to, like, you're the one there running the show, and they teach you how to create a team that helps run the most efficient show possible so that you can provide the best care possible for this patient. And so that can be a very high stress environment. But when you're in training and all of a sudden you're being taught to hold out your hand and the instrument you need is in your hand, it becomes very easy to bring that mentality home. And so I remember we pulled through, this was my intern year, and we pulled through McDonald's one night with the kids, and McDonald's was taking like 90 seconds instead of 60, and I was furious and like throwing a fit. And my ex-wife looks at me and she's just like, oh, you can't do that. I'm like, what? She's like, you do not get to bring Surgeon Nick home at all. And I actually had to create this routine where I would come home from work and I would park in the driveway and I would sit for about 60 seconds, sometimes longer if I needed to. And I would let go of the day, like let go of Surgeon Nick so that I could come home and be Dad Nick. And so I could come home and be husband Nick.
What does letting go look like? Is that like intentional meditation? Is that just like breathing, thinking?
Yeah, at the time I didn't really have a lot of the like woo-woo words around it. So because I just didn't know. But yeah, I was playing, chill music. Yeah. And I was probably just unintentionally doing some breathing to just be like, okay, here we go. And you compartmentalize. I'm like, all right, I'll be back to work tomorrow. Right now I'm coming home to be this guy. And I still do that. And it's still, that is a challenge. Like, I think you have to, and that's part of being present, right? You can never be fully present if your mind is still at the office or if your mind's still on the business deal that's going down. And so you've got to learn a way, especially with your kids, to just be fully there. And a big part of that, put the phone away, do not disturb. I'm here with my kid. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna talk about? And you'll notice this with them too. Like I will do these like one-on-one dates with my kids, and I get very frustrated with my teenage kids when they're just like sitting and scrolling on their phone. It's just, you're like, I created this date night and all you're doing is sitting and scrolling on your phone. And so what happens then? If you're sitting across from your teenage kid and they're scrolling your phone, what is your reaction? You pick up your phone.
Yeah.
And then it becomes two people. And you look at any restaurant, like most of the people in that restaurant, that's exactly what they're doing. Person's sitting there scrolling theirs, so the other person decides to scroll theirs. And so I wasn't going to bang my head against the wall telling these kids, like, put your damn phone away. I just started refusing to pull mine out. Like, I wouldn't even bring it into the restaurant. And I would just sit there. And eventually, my kids just open up. And we'll have these amazing conversations because they can tell that I'm present. Mm. And kids pick up on that energy better than anybody. And so if you're distracted, I guarantee you, if you're distracted at all, if you are not present at all, they will sense it. And they will decide, I don't need to be here. Dad's not even here. And that is one of the biggest pieces of advice I think I could give is just give them your full presence. And whether you can be sitting in a room just watching your kid play, right? And that presence is going to mean the world to them. Like even your little Gigi, who's 10 months. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, she'll interact with you, but most of the time she's in her own little world, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
She will feel that. Even if you just go sit and watch her play with some toys, roll around on the floor, and you're just there, and that's the only thing. I'm just here. That's all they need.
That's powerful. So simple, but powerful. When it comes to raising your kids, and I mean, you were raised LDS, you've been in the LDS faith, you went on a mission. I feel like when you're raised in that environment for so long, it's almost like, hey, here's how to raise your kids. Here's like the values you preach to them, right? Like, talk to me about that transition and like, hey, I still want my kids to have values. I still want to raise wonderful children, but maybe this like booklet isn't the exact thing that I want to implement. Like, talk to me through that journey that you went through.
I believe very strongly that spirituality is a human need. And that's just my own personal belief.
Yeah.
And I believe that from my own experience, which was when you get excommunicated, the thing that you miss the most, at least for me, is spirituality. Some sort of connection to a higher power. Right? When you're in a religion, it's built in. You go to church on Sunday, you read your scriptures, you're saying your prayers. And so you have this built-in access to spirituality. God, I mean, with the Mormon faith, this is another reason that excommunication can be so painful for people.
I'm sure.
Is because you are told that you no longer have access to the gift of the Holy Ghost, which is like, boom, your spirituality is gone, doesn't exist anymore. And so you have to go find it. And so for me, I had to go find it. But because I believe that's a need, it's funny. I've watched both of my kids who are both baptized into the LDS faith. But I obviously am not a member, so when they're with me, we don't go to church.
Mm-hmm. Your wife still, your ex-wife?
My ex-wife is mostly inactive. So her husband, their stepdad, is inactive. But she likes them to go and be involved in young men's and young women's and the social aspect and things like that. But for the most part, my kids have gone through or are going through their high school career here outside of the predominant religion. Yeah. And they're not really considered members. And what's interesting is I have watched both of them try to find their own spirituality. My daughter right now consistently goes to the single adults ward, and she's finding community and whatever she wants in that young single adults ward. My son will have conversations with me and ask me, what if I want to serve a mission one day, Dad? I'm like, is that what you want? Then I would support it 1,000%.
I love that.
So here's the thing. I will always tell my children what I believe. My own personal belief, I believe the Mormon religion is complete nonsense. That's just my own personal belief. I don't believe it. And I educate my kids. I'm like, this is what I believe. However, even more strongly than in what I believe in your freedom to choose what you believe. So if my child comes to me and says, Dad, I have sat down, I have read this Book of Mormon thing, and I've prayed about it, and I fully believe it, I will not try to talk him out of it at all. That is his choice. And the way that he decides to connect to God, the way he decides to connect to spirituality is one of the most individual rights that he has. And me as a parent, I have zero right to take that away from him. If my daughter comes and says, fucking Wiccan's awesome, Dad. Okay, are you being a good person with it? Yes. Okay, awesome. Go for it.
Yeah.
Like, that is the one thing that I think they get above anything else, how they connect with God and how they connect with spirituality. And I will never take that from them.
Good for you.
And yeah, it's been fun watching them find it. Like, I sit down with my son, I'm like, he went to this young men's camp and loved it. Or not young men's camp. He went to, what is the current version of EFY? FSY or something like that.
Yeah.
And he loved it. He's reading scriptures out there. He's doing stuff that he does not normally done. And it's fun to sit and ask him about it. And it's fun to sit and ask him, so do you believe in God? He's like, yeah, I believe in God, Dad. I was well, what do you think this whole life thing is about? It's like, I think we're here to be good people, and we should just be kind humans and be good to other people. I'm like, yep, you're nailing it, man. Go, keep going, whatever route you go.
And I love that you can have those conversations, like, regardless of your guys' beliefs and if they align perfectly. But even like you said, like, what's the purpose of life? Do you believe in God? The bigger questions of life. I'm curious on that side, because you want your kids to be happy. You want your kids to have values. You want them to have, and obviously, like, if the church is removed from your life, there's a void there of what you have been raised in. And I love what you said about, like, their own journey and figuring that out. So
yeah,
I look up to you for that. That's cool.
So many things. It's hard as parents because we have our own experiences. And so we want to help our kids learn the lessons we had to learn. Mm-hmm. And one of the hardest things as a parent, I think, is letting them learn those lessons. Like, you can educate, you can admonish, encourage, but at the end of the day, they still have to learn those lessons. And it can be a hard thing watching them go through it and learn it sometimes. Yeah. But you have to let them. And I think this can be the problem with religion and relationships, right? So I'll give you an example. A buddy of mine is married. He's not LDS, and he left, but his wife still is very much LDS. And he feels this, like, very strong pull to get her out, to convince her of his own beliefs. And she actually doesn't feel that at all. She very much is like, I love and support what you're doing right now, but that's not what I want to do. And I love you. And so I think if we can get to that place in our relationships, and I think where it comes from is that honoring that person's choice and how they connect to God, then you can just love them no matter what, right? It doesn't matter their religion, doesn't matter their creed or their faith or how they pray or how they don't pray. Yeah. Like, you can just love them for who they are. They don't need to connect to God the way you do.
100%. Yeah, me growing up in Seattle, where there's no predominant religion and it's less of a topic and such, it's been unique coming to Utah in that sense. But I think the biggest thing for me in my relationships, whether it's like my wife, friends, etc., is I crave for people to be their genuine selves.
Yeah.
And if that's in the church, I think that makes people like a much greater person if that's their conviction, and that's like where they believe their beliefs lead them to. Like I'm drawn to that because they're genuine in what they believe, and it makes them a better person. But on the exact opposite side, in Seattle, where my friends smoke weed every day, and they are some of the best human beings in the entire planet that will do anything for you, I'm drawn to that because they are a genuine human being that like cares for other humans and has this, yeah. Anyway, so I feel like that's my rule. It's less of what organization you're part of, but more so like how you are as a genuine human being. And
you're nailing it, dude.
Yeah.
Like that's so. Well, first of all, grunge is the predominant religion in Seattle.
Yeah, that's.
but I'll tell you this about my wife. Haley is one of the most authentic people that I know. She grew up here in Riverton, and she grew up.
That's where my wife grew up.
Oh, no way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she grew up non-LDS, one of the very few non-LDS kids in her high school. And but from the outside looking in, you would have thought she was the picture perfect Molly Mormon. Didn't drink, didn't smoke, got straight A's, didn't sleep with her boyfriends, was a good kid, and felt very ostracized and very judged for not being part of the religion. And so when she left high school, she was like, screw this, I'm gonna do what I want. And she got tattoos, wore what she wants to wear, and lived how she wanted to live. And still here in Utah, guess what? People still judged her.
Yeah.
She felt ostracized. And so, and that's not I don't give that story as a knock on Utah culture, but it was a lesson for her where she realized the most important thing for me is just be me. The most valuable thing that you can have in this life is internal validation. When you look inside and you know you're good and you know you're peaceful, that is the most valuable thing in this world. The problem is it's so hard to accept because it doesn't come with the dings and bells and whistles and likes that external validation comes from, right? If I am externally validated by these girls in my DMs or these people liking me or this company recruiting me, that feels good. That gives me a dopamine rush. That's awesome. So that's why we keep on chasing those things. When in reality, the most valuable thing we can have gives us none of that. It's just being able to look in the mirror, reach down inside and say, I'm fucking awesome. I love me. I am worth it. And that is a very peaceful place to be.
How do people draw closer to that of maybe their internal battle is I want to be accepted. I want to feel approved by my neighbors, by people around me. How do you make that shift?
The funny catch-22 in all of this is I believe if we would just focus on the internal validation, then all of the external validation you want will be there. Like people will be drawn to you when you are okay with you and you're not wearing the mask to make everybody satisfied. And you also won't feel like you need it. And it'll just come. It'll just flow. How to do it? It takes work every day. And it takes you living up to your own word every single day.
That's a good thing to end on.
Love it.
You got some wisdom behind you, Nick. I appreciate it.
Thanks, my man.
Well, it's been great getting to know you. Lots of gems for the audience. I appreciate you sharing your story and being vulnerable with it. Where can people get connected with Nick?
Oh man, at Dr. Nicholas Howland is my Instagram handle. That's the easiest place to get in touch with me. Yes, I have a marketing team, but it's all me as far as the DMs go. And so I'll be the one interacting with you there. And that's the easiest way to get in touch with me.
Okay. And how can they support your business? If someone is interested in plastic surgery on any side, DM you.
Head to toe plastic surgery, Howland Health and Wellness. We run a wellness program within our practice as well. That's full concierge medicine, hormone replacement, peptides, everything top to bottom. Reach out to me. We'd be happy to take care of you.
I love it. Thanks for jumping on, Nick.
Thanks, man.